it would be great if you could all imagine yourself. We're going to time travel a little bit back to 2015. Okay, just as a recap, during 2015 was the first meetup of Mayweather and Pacquiao. Yeah, the Philippines had officially launched a full campaign on the war on drugs, and we had crowned our first Miss Universe in I don't know, quite some time. Right, that was 2015. Okay, for me, 2015 was also unforgettable uh, due to three particular events. The first one was my first asthma attack, quite unexpected. Okay, so I'm obviously asthmatic. The second was April and I were blessed with parenthood. Alana is there. She's our energetic, outspoken, healthy daughter. Came out into this roller coaster of a world. Say hi, Alana. And then the third event was my second and more severe asthma attack. So I'll mainly be focusing on that second asthma attack. So it's difficult to understand if you're not an asthmatic, what it's like to have an asthma attack. So I'll try to describe it as best I can. It's not like drowning, because drowning you have an external force, right? But asthma, it's something deep within your body is restricting the oxygen intake. Um, so it's you always feel like you're gonna die every time you have wheezing or you have an asthma attack. So as I mentioned, during that first asthma attack, boros pa si April. So at that point, no, dako na gid iyang tiyan, right? So if fatherhood wasn't nerve wracking enough, I have to now death is consuming my attention, not just really consuming my attention, but literally walking into the bedroom while I slept in the middle of the night, sitting down next to me and slowly reducing the oxygen in the room. That's what it felt like. And while I was still sleeping, I would be dreaming of suffocating. Okay, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up and I'd be gasping for life. And there were endless nights like this. So when the human is deprived of sleep, both the mind and the body suffer very greatly. In short, I was desperate for answers, right? There's a newborn on the way, and I feel like I'm gonna die in the middle of the night, almost every night. So if someone had told me that I could get asthma relief by eating some garden snails, I certainly wouldn't be standing in front of a vegan community today, right? So I was desperate for answers, and so I went looking. So fast forward some months, our daughter was crawling around, and I was still trying to maintain an active lifestyle, just to maintain my sanity, which brings us to my second asthma attack. By this point, I'd already seen 2 or 3 doctors. I was officially diagnosed. I was using an inhaler 3 times a day, and the nebulizer was like a regular occasion, regularly using the nebulizer. Those middle of the night visits from death. So I learned to keep a bottle of Fundador nearby just to sedate myself in the middle of the night in hopes that I wouldn't be a zombie in the morning, be a proper father to our daughter and a proper partner to April. So asthma requires that an active person be very selective about when they work out. And then you also have to carry the inhaler with you wherever you go. So it's kind of like a mental crutch. In case any symptoms flare up, you need that on standby. So one night, I go to jiu-jitsu practice. It's just here in Axis. On this particular night, our team had gotten some new mats. These are the puzzle mats that you might have seen in like a taekwondo gym or something like that. And if you've ever smelt them brand new, they have a very, very strong chemical, smell to it. The general format of jiu-jitsu practice is like the first hour is dedicated to technique, drilling, and then the second hour is sparring. So it was during that second hour where I would experience the onset of symptoms from asthma, because I think it was because of the smell of the mats. So it was quite strong. And then so in jiu-jitsu, it's very safe actually if you're practicing jiu-jitsu, because there's a tap out rule. Okay, so everyone follows this rule. And it's a verbal or physical tap, whether it's a physical or I say tap, 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 both practitioners will immediately stop. Okay, so it's very safe in general. So I did just that. I told my sparring partner I have to go because I'm starting to feel the onset of wheezing. So I gathered my things and then I started to exit the building. I was offered a ride, but at that time when I was still in the studio, I felt the wheezing was tolerable, so I felt like I could still make it. So this was already nighttime, so I proceeded to exit the building, and it's on the third floor. So I descended the building, walked out. It's already dark outside in the Kogon streets here, and I make it about 50 meters, and I was actually surprised how fast the onset uh, became worse and worse of the symptoms. So meaning my wheezing was becoming very heavy, so heavy that I stopped in my tracks and I looked back. I look back at Axis Gen. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I can make it up there 3 floors and ask someone to take me home. And then I'm looking at the end of the street, and usually the routine is I take a mozzarella home, but I could see a taxi at the end of on about another 50 meters. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I can make either one. So now I'm thinking I'm not going to make it, right? The problem is that when you can't yell or run for help, right? Because if you start running, that's going to make it even worse. And I had just come from the gym. I was working out, and you breathe heavily, so I was already feeling restriction, a lot of restriction at that point. So it stopped me in my tracks, and I started to realize death had been stalking me since practice. It just waited for the proper events to be in place, followed me outside the building, and waited till I was alone. And it really looked like I was by myself. I was looking around the streets to see if I could maybe flag somebody down. I didn't see anybody. I don't know what it was about that night. I really felt like this was it. Like no one's around to help me. I can't yell. I can't run. I can't go back up the building. And so the thoughts start going lightning fast in your head when you start thinking like you're gonna die. There are a lot of testimonials for people who have near-death experiences that their life flashes before their eyes. For me, it was more about the future, a future where I wouldn't even get to see Alana turn 1 year old. A future where I wouldn't even have the chance to use my jujitsu against her future ex-boyfriend, right? I mean, no chance, for lovers to see each other turn into nagging dementia patients, right? I mean, who doesn't want to live for that? But those moments, I would imagine that you either accept it or you reject it when you really feel like this is it, right? I don't know how it is for other people, but it was a surprise to accept it. And I had a peculiar thought at that time. I was thinking to myself, because normally I carry just enough money to pay for the jiu-jitsu session and then enough for some pliti, right, to get home. And so I was thinking to myself, good thing I only have like 20 pesos sa akong bolsa, right? Okay, if anyone steals from my corpse, at least the money's at home. So I was already in that mental state, right? Like, but these are like, time is warped when you think you're gonna die and you're wheezing, and in those micro moments after accepting this is where I'm gonna die, I felt my left knee just bend so that I could start laying my body down, because I didn't want to just pass out and smash my face on the floor. That would be terrible, right? An ugly scene. So I was gonna just lay down and let myself perish right there. And I know that I remember this very distinctly. Right when my left knee started to bend so that I could lower my body down, something clicked in my head. And luckily, I had the knowledge of breathing techniques. During my search for answers of asthma relief, I came across something called Bucheco breathing. So if anyone's asthmatic, you should definitely look that up. Saved my life, right? And luckily, at that same time, when I was looking for asthma relief, I came across information about plant-based diets and how it reduces inflammation. And so the Bucheco breathing is really what got me through those moments and allowed me to get to the taxi. And I took the taxi home, and I really looked for my inhaler very quickly, and I took the biggest puff of gratitude I have ever taken from that inhaler, right? And so that was a huge relief, and this was like a second chance for me. At least that's how I viewed it. Whether it was me just panicking or whatever it was, I got a second chance because I had accepted my death right there in the dark streets of Kogon. A way probably nobody wants to die, but that was it, and that was the last day that I ever considered eating meat ever again. And as they say, the rest is history. You just keep learning. I pushed for it. That was it, man. I'm never looking back. I don't ever want to go back to feeling like I'm gonna die every night in my dreams. So it's not a for me. It's not a difficult decision, right? My brain decided it was not time to tap out. Here I am, almost 8 years later. I'm enjoying every moment of parenthood, being a partner to April, being able to be alive, right? And that's because I had a quest for answers. Knowledge is the power to live. So I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.